Welcome to Mind Your Heart podcast, your favorite corner of the internet where we chat about all things mental health. I'm Emily.
And I'm Trina. Together, we're like your real-life Lorelai and Rory Gilmore. Each week, we'll bring you real conversations about the world of mental health, and we will peel back layers on topics like anxiety, depression, and much more.
We're here to chat with you about the tough stuff, the everyday stuff, and everything in between. So grab your emotional support water bottle, I know we have ours, find your comfiest chair, or keep your eyes on the road, and let's get into it. Are you ready, Mom?
Absolutely. Join us as we mind our hearts and hopefully make minding yours a little easier.
Welcome back!
Welcome back, Emily.
Welcome back, Trina. Welcome to the Mind Your Heart podcast.
Yeah.
Today, I'm so excited. We have our first official guest.
Yay!
This guest is
in the
best.
studio as well. That's
true.
The other bright spot of this.
In-person guest, yes, which will... The guests that we'll have, so this is the start of kind of like our guest segment for a little bit of fall. So the next like 4 or 5 episodes, we'll have some really awesome people come on and chat with us. But today our first guest is a very special guest.
He's all right.
We love him so much.
We do love him so much.
He, is one of the very best people that I know. I mean, you can probably guess.
He's a blessing and gift to our whole family.
Yeah. So we have Jake, my boyfriend.
Hi.
Hi, Jake.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing good.
How do you feel about that intro?
It's pretty good.
Okay, thank you. We think this is going to be an interesting interview because Jake is normally a man of few words. That is his thing.
That is true. However, lately, I have felt like that you've definitely been more talkative. I even said this at the beach house, which is kind of one of the reasons we even talked about doing this episode.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wow, Jake seems so happy. Are things going good at work? Like he's so much more talkative and like you were really invested in the games. And I don't know. I just noticed like a brightness. I mean, you always have had a great personality and you're wonderful. But it was like, I don't know. It was as if you were like completely awake and just,
like something was different.
Yeah.
And something was different. So that's kind of what we're talking about today. So I guess like our lead into this would be like, could you kind of explain like how the difference between what you were feeling before you took medication and when you now are on medication and you're not in the stage of it being like you feel like you're going to throw up all the time?
Yeah. So the best way that I can like describe it is like before medication, I was feeling like pretty anxious, at the time I didn't necessarily know that it was like depression. But being on the other side of it now, I'm like, oh yeah, like I was depressed. And just like things that would give me like joy in life or the basic joys in life didn't as much because like things like doing little things around the house or like I love Starbucks. Shout out Starbucks. Like that wouldn't even necessarily bring me as much joy as it used to. But then once I got on medication, it was kind of like a new whole perspective. Like you were kind of saying, like it felt like my mind was unlocked in a way. Like there was just a sense of clarity that after the negative side effects.
Yeah, because that was for like, a couple weeks, I think?
Like 3 or 4.
I don't think it was 4 weeks.
Because it was when I was on half and then on the full.
I think it was like 2 to 3.
Well, I mean, he probably knows how he felt.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, he was also like really good at communicating it. So, but yeah.
Either way, it was a rough transitionary period, but I stuck it out. You were very encouraging with that. And knowing that like you had been through what you had been through trying to find your medication, it was super helpful to have that modeled.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, so I guess that like my question would be also like, what made you be like, yeah, now I'm going to start medication? Because before you took medication, like I had definitely encouraged you to like see a psychiatrist and see what they even said like about taking medication prior to you doing that. So, and for a little while, I feel like that was something I was like, oh, maybe like you should try and see what happens. So, like, what was the thing, or can you even pinpoint the thing that was like, okay, yeah, like I'm gonna do that?
Yeah. Like at first I think what I was outwardly showing was like, oh, it's too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
We can't afford that. Like I know how much like meds can cost, and like I know like from your experience, like, oh, you had a psychiatrist, it was over $100, and I was like, I can't do that on a
Yeah.
regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what that really was kind of like a masking of fear of something new, and not necessarily knowing what that would do. Not for like the negative side effects, but I think like changing me personally.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you feel like it's going to make you a different version of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard of stories of like, oh, people feel like zombies.
Yeah,
when
which
they're
is
on
when
it.
people are over medicated.
Yeah.
So that can happen, but then you know that that's too much of a medication. It should never like can change your personality.
Yeah.
It should like enhance how you feel, and but not be, you're not a completely different person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
You feel like a better version of yourself,
for sure.
not a non-version of yourself.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's definitely like what I feel now. But I think that was like a big thing for having a fear of doing it. But I think also it kind of like me, like my mental state kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't really know what else to do. Like you had even said, like you seem like depressed or like down or like unhappy. And I was like, yeah, like I do feel that way.
Yeah.
And like, what's the harm? Like I'm still under 26, so I'm still on my dad's plan. So shout out dad.
Yeah. Shout out Tony.
which is actually a really good thing that we have in America. Honestly, like that's a
Yeah.
we
Very
should
grateful.
yeah. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Be on, be able to be on somebody's plan.
Yeah. And so having that monetary cost, I was like covered. I was like, well, you got no more excuses. But then also like just your encouragement of, I think you could really benefit from this. And I just went online while I was at work, and just looked up psychiatrists in Tampa or Brandon or whatever. And then I found one on telehealth, and she was super cool. The way I could describe it is like she was like big sister vibes. And so it was like I felt very comfortable. And she was like, we'll just start you on something small, but it was really good.
Yeah. It was definitely like, and I think, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not, but I think like almost having my like kind of shitty experiences with psychiatrists, I was also like, okay, this is what you're gonna look for of if this is working or if it's not. And I remember like you, after your first appointment, you were like, yeah, like that was really good. And she like wants to start slow, and like she also wants to incorporate like different like eating habits to be better, my sleep. And I'm like, good.
Excellent.
I'm like, perfect, check. Like then like she knows what she's doing basically, because it's like you have to vet the person.
You definitely do. It makes all the difference. Even like, I mean, for me as well. And also I say the number one thing is actually finding a psychiatrist and not a general practitioner. I don't think general practitioners have any business prescribing these kinds of medications, and it happens all the time.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And actually in Canada, where they have, healthcare, like really good healthcare, they have to go to a general practitioner. They can't go to a psychiatrist. Isn't that real? Yeah, I think that's upsetting. So
why? Why can they?
They're just very much about like the general practitioner, like is the one that's in control.
Are they trained differently then?
No, they're not. They need to go to psychiatrists. They just don't have access to psychiatrists like we do. So it is really crazy when you think that, they're so much more advanced in this area. They're not.
Is there more of like a controlled substance issue in Canada? Because
I don't think so. It's just that, I mean, I really feel strongly about this because I've had an OBGYN try to prescribe these kinds of things to me. I have had a general practitioner, and they just don't know what they're doing. The psychiatrist is an expert. They understand, especially ones that specialize in medication and how it impacts your brain and how it works in your brain, all those things. And that's really important.
Yeah.
And if you find someone that you feel uncomfortable, like when Jackson went to 2 different psychiatrists to deal with his ADHD, The first psychiatrist was like so adamantly opposed to certain kinds of medication,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was like, what? Like he wasn't even,
Yeah.
and to have like such a narrow focus from the get-go, you really want someone that's open-minded about different things.
Yeah.
And so I think that's great that you found. I've had some good luck and some not so good luck. And when I found a psychiatrist that I had for years and years, I loved her. She was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And it made all the difference.
Yeah.
And I was able to bounce things off of her. And also for you and I, like
Mm-hmm.
the way that our bodies metabolize certain medications, like I kept running into, this isn't working anymore. Now I have
Yeah.
to try something else. And it was just you just need someone that's very patient and willing to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important. And then I had kind of I don't want to say lazy, but like it was fine if I was just maintaining, but if I
Yeah.
needed any adjustment,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't my guy.
Yeah.
Now I again finally feel like I am with someone that
Mm-hmm.
will make sure that I am getting what I need.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I was wondering if this is true for you, Jake, the minute like it started really kicking in, which was not too long, it was, pretty relatively short. Um, I felt like I wished I had done this sooner, because it was like you don't even realize that you're walking around with a little bit of like a dark cloud over your head until you're like, holy crap, I can see. Like this is I feel so much better. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So much better. And even when things stop working sometimes for me and I have to make adjustments, the way that my depression comes out is anger. And I'll all of a sudden be like really pissed off at things. And I'm like, why am I so mad? Like the lady that, cut me off in traffic is, the worst thing ever. And I'm like, something's going on. Like I'm really mad about things that don't need to be so mad about. And again, the minute it's adjusted, I'm like, whoa, it feels so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, funny story. The first time that I ever felt any like reaction to it, or like the first night I took it, it was a full dose. And I was like, I looked at Emily and I was like, I feel like funny. It felt like I was like tipsy and like high and just like wonky.
Yeah.
I was like, I just feel so silly.
Yeah.
Like that's like the best way I could put it is like I just felt silly. And she was like, well, it's okay. Like she was very patient and very kind and very nurturing. And then so she's like, you could just go down to half. Yeah. No, it was huge because I was like, I feel strange.
Oh, he was like, I feel like my whole body is vibrating.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
Huh.
And I was like, okay, well, like you're putting something foreign, like into your
It's
body.
your brain chemicals are
Yeah.
being adjusted.
And
so.
I'm like, so like that's not like a shock. I'm like, do you feel like okay enough to like that we can just monitor it? Like, where are you at with that? And so then we started kind of coming up with a way to like scale like where you were at on like the
danger level.
Yeah,
I never felt like I was really like in danger.
Yeah.
It was just because like I knew we were in the safe space like with you and all of that. But the first clarity, the best way I can describe like the biggest change from pre-medication to post-medication is just clarity. I think the first time, you could correct me if I'm wrong because I feel like I told you, is we were in a staff meeting and I had been called on for something. It wasn't like an aggressive or I gotcha called on. Brian, the lead pastor, is kind of like, Jake, how do you feel about this or whatever? And I like responded and I didn't feel any anxiety.
Yes.
In the past, it was kind of like I would get called on and like my hand would start to shake. And like my voice would tremble and things of that nature. But then I like didn't get the shakes at all. And then more and more stuff, things like that happened. And I was like, it was just that clarity and that peace of those interactions was just really nice.
Did you feel like when you were like younger, where that didn't bother you so much and you were easygoing when you got called on, or have you always had a little bit of a feeling of anxiety about it?
I wouldn't say that like I would say that my anxiety started kind of when I began like my adult life.
Okay.
When I was younger, I don't necessarily remember being anxious in school.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't get nervous or called on or whatever. But I think I was also like comfortable in that space because I was very like smart and like school came very easy to me. So I felt very comfortable. But I'd say it was really more just in my adult life.
I was just wondering that because I wonder how much like hormones and things play an impact on that. The reason I say that because that story just reminded me of like when I was younger, like when I was in high school and things like that. I felt the same way, like confident. I don't remember feeling anxious. I know there were certain things that I look back on and I'm like, that was definitely anxiety that I didn't know about at the time. But whoops. But I should I
Make
check
sure
it?
it's still recording. Just pull the cord.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Leave it on the ground for now.
Okay.
Okay, so I remember feeling like really confident and very like I had a lot of friends and like I was in a bunch of clubs and those, vice president and all these whatever. And so I was in student council. I totally felt comfortable talking about how I felt about things. I've always been very opinionated. So I like share things like I feel like this. And I always felt completely fine. But as I got older, like in my later 20s, I started like getting more like insecure, like not feeling as confident about and wanting to say things, but like feeling this like I would be in a group of people and this was like teaching and I actually felt like I knew a lot about teaching and I would feel like oh gosh and I didn't know that was anxiety, like I had no idea that was anxiety, but then when I started taking the medication I was like I felt like myself again. I was like oh I have something to say about that. And it would pipe up and not feel like scared or whatever. So I just remember feeling like this was me. Like this was the real me. Like this is how I was. And then I somehow wasn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah. At Centerpoint where I work, there's been different scenarios that have come up where I've kind of had to be in a more speaking position or things like that. And they've dubbed it Lexapro Jake. And just because it's like kind of like me out of like my outer shell or because I was very quiet, reserved, things of that. I keep saying things of that nature.
I have not even noticed that you've said that.
Me either.
All right.
So you're only paying attention to it.
All right. Sounds good. But they dubbed it Lexapro Jake, which is I think it's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you think that's funny because some people might, be like, well, but there definitely is a difference to you. And it does feel like a more confident, I'm not afraid to say what I think kind of and also just happier.
Yeah.
You just seem happier.
Yeah. I feel like, was it my mom who also said that? Or maybe it was Nicole. Nicole is you talked about Nicole. But she was saying like, you just seem like brighter.
Yeah.
And we did like a staff Olympics where I kind of had to lead and speak and all of that.
Well, you like put the whole thing, you and Grace put the whole thing together.
Yeah.
So, sorry, keep going.
No, you're good. But I had to speak in front of like basically all of our staff for 2 hours. And like there was like anxiety there, but it wasn't like a crippling anxiety that I had. It was kind of like there's that self-awareness of I'm anxious, but I'm not going to let it control me. And that's definitely something that the medication has helped me have that clarity again.
Yeah. And even like after they did the staff Olympics, like multiple people came to me and they were like, Jake did so good. Like he was like just talking to all of us. We all had such a good time. Like he was really able to like lead it and like just make us all laugh. Like he's so funny. And I'm like, yeah, I know. He is funny.
He is funny.
Yeah.
You are funny. Yeah. And that comes out more as well. Like your personality comes out more, which is nice. I think that's really great, Jake. And also like figuring it out so young. I mean, I feel like this went on for a long time for me before I figured out that I needed any kind of, but some people may be thinking like, why go to medication as the first line of defense, but you're doing more than medication. Like you're also talking to someone too, right?
Well, so the psychiatrist that I see, there is a little bit like of therapy in there.
Okay.
But the way that she describes it is like I believe it's a table or a chair, whereas like medication is like one leg, but then there's other things that make it up to so you have that stability.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, I just need to get need to get the medication down, because that's when I was having the negative side effects.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, you need to work on drinking more water, eating 3 meals, getting good rest, and like going to bed on time, things like that.
Yeah.
But it's been really, really life changing, just like having that. And I think the reason why I was able to do it so, it's gonna sound like self-gratifying, but like faithfully, because I know like people try and then they're like, no, I don't want to do it anymore, like the side effects are too much. It's because like you modeled it. Just because like you went through so many and like you just kept going through and like trying something else, like we're gonna figure it out. And then also like when I was having the negative side effects, it wasn't like, and I wasn't like hungry, you were like, I know you should eat something, like not like you need to have 3 meals like she said. It was kind of just like, I'm gonna meet you where you are, and then we'll figure it out together.
Oh, that's nice. Thanks.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
That is
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, like, I know how, like, rough it was when, like, I was trying to figure it out. And I also, like, I feel like I can now, when you were starting stuff, I was like, I can see this from, like, a 50-foot view instead.
It's a meta.
Yeah. And so, like, when you were like, I'm not hungry, like, I'm not going to eat, I'm like, I remember feeling so nauseous that, like, you don't want to eat anything. But I'm like, I also remember when I had at least something, like, plain and small,
makes a difference.
it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I, like, understand what you're feeling, but I'm like, I'm telling you, like, just eat, like, one piece of bread.
Yeah.
Like, just something.
Yeah.
So that way, like, you don't keep feeling like this. So, yeah.
And some of those symptoms, or those side effects, I should say, not symptoms, the side effects get better. Is that because I have a medication that makes me kind of, I take it at night because of it also makes me tired.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and it normally typically is given in the daytime, but I'm like, well, I can't because it's making me so tired.
Yeah.
So it actually helps me go to sleep, and it makes me a little bit nauseous if I haven't eaten like hours before that.
Gotcha.
And then, but when I do, then it's fine and I don't feel that way. But I think, some things you have to decide, is this better? Like, obviously, if you're not eating and you're, that's not healthy, you need to eat.
Yeah.
And then for me, like, one of the medications, like, it affects your metabolism and makes it go down to nothing. And when you're past menopause, like, that can be an issue for you. I'm like, well, great. Now I've gained weight. And so, and you don't, it's like, what do you want to focus on?
Yeah.
Like, now that makes me depressed.
Yeah.
So,
Which is
things...
something that, like, we did talk about, because at the beginning, in the first week specifically, it was pretty rough. Like, you were like, he didn't want to eat, like, anything, because it was like, you just felt like kind of sick. Like, everything that you ate, like, just didn't taste good because you felt nauseous. But I was like, okay, so, like, why don't we just say that, like, you're gonna try this for 1 more week, and if you still feel completely miserable and at the same level, then, like, you can call your psychiatrist and you'll try something else. And I'm like, but if you feel better in a couple of days, then, like, let's give it a couple more days and just see, like, giving yourself the chance to see if it'll change, and also, like, being like, okay, if it doesn't, I'm allowed to, like, do something else.
I'm
like,
allowed
I
to
don't
stop.
have to keep feeling like this either. Like, it doesn't have to be tails or a horn. Like, it can be I get to pick one good option and not have the rest. So
It definitely tapered, thankfully.
That's good.
And then it respawned back up when I went back to the full dose, but it didn't. That didn't last as long as the first initial point. And so I was like, oh, thank gosh.
And you kind of have the
PB&Js.
tools to do that too. At that point, you were like, okay, I know what to expect, and I know, like, how I can. PB&J. That was, like, all you ate for, like, a couple of weeks.
Man, I need that. I want that medication. Where I don't want to eat and all I eat is PB&J.
I was like, that's all I want. That's all that sounds good right now.
That's funny. But any other side effects?
I mean, it was mostly just like GI stuff, but nothing really like anything else that I've like that's been noticeable. Those are only negative ones, but there have been positive ones.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious what you would say to someone who is like if you were talking to, like, Jake pre-medication and, like, you now we're talking to him then and he was like, I don't want to be on medication, like, I don't think like I can do that. It's too expensive. I don't want this. I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like say to him, knowing what you know now?
Mm-hmm. I think I would say like, I feel like I would go specific, but I don't necessarily think that would benefit the listener. So I'll go a little more general.
You can be specific.
Okay. So apply this to your areas. But I think for like moments where I really felt anxiety of like in staff meetings or ideation meetings, it was like the way that you feel like everyone's just looking at you, the way that you think everyone's just like analyzing you, like that goes away. There's going to be some trials in the beginning,
Yeah.
but it's going to stop. There will be, you will see some shortcomings, and like your different aspects of your life, but you will have the clarity and the focus to be able to improve upon them. To have that retrospection is a retrospective thoughts. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
And so like just try it, take a leap, find people around you that'll help you, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you say to people that they're scared of side effects, or they're scared of, I mean, and a lot of times, like the most common ones that people worry about, you know, are like not eating, or some people worry about gaining weight. Some people worry about sex drive decreasing. Like I know that's a big one that people say. They're so concerned about the symptoms that they are willing not to try because they are so worried about that.
I mean, I think for the symptoms issue, you can figure out which medication is right. I was very lucky when it was like a first try. That works. It works good. No symptoms. That was very great. But even if those symptoms didn't subside, I think I would have still continued.
Yeah.
Just because like I knew what it could do. I knew the positive benefits of what was possible. And so I think like you can keep the negative symptoms in mind, but you can't let them rule your decision. And I know that's very easy to say now that I'm on this side of medication. But just stay strong on that. Like the right medication, the right, I don't want to say concoction,
It kind of
but the
is.
right build of meds is out there one way or the other. And so finding a good psychiatrist and all of that, and that support system is huge, and you can do it.
Definitely having like a support system with it too.
I
think
agree.
sometimes that's like the drawback for some people, as they're like, well, I don't know, like I can't do it like by myself, and like I understand that because I think like it's like if you're not in the place like you were, where it's just like kind of like you try the first one and it does work, and you're more on this end of it where you try all of them
15 20
then you need someone to be like, okay, well, like what is your psychiatrist saying? Like what are they doing to support you? Are you also doing this? Like how can I help? Like, and finding the person is also hard. And I've told this to many of my friends, like when they talk about like thinking about getting medication, I'm like, if the finding of the psychiatrist is the part that's holding you back, like let me help you. Like I will, like, give me your insurance information and tell me like your radius of where you want them to be, and or if you want them online, and like we can look together. Like find someone who will do that with you and who like knows what to look for, because I'm like, I remember when I was first trying to find like a good psychiatrist, and it's so overwhelming. Like there's just
because you already feel depressed and anxious, and so
Yeah.
everything feels like a lot of work, and that's actually one of the symptoms of depression. It feels so, I can't figure it out. I can't take the time to figure it out because I am so exhausted and everything feels so hard.
Like you can't even really get out of bed, so how are you gonna like open your computer and start researching like doctors in your area? So like find somebody who like, for like, I feel like I'm that friend like for people. I'm like, if you need me to do that, like I will find them, and I will go as far as making an appointment, giving them your number to call for the rest of the information. But I'm like, it's you can always put hurdles
Yeah.
in front of you, but to me, and especially like where I was like at an extreme and you were getting to a point where you were like really unhappy, it's like the choice is like you can ask for somebody to assist you and then like not feel like this
Yeah.
anymore, or you're just gonna keep spending your life like kind of miserable.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So that's
doesn't,
kind of
yeah.
where I'm like, you like just ask someone to help you. Like that sounds hard and it's not like a just simple thing, but like message someone, call someone, talk to someone that like you trust is like your friend, your parent, your brother, your sister, whatever. And just ask them like, can you help me find some people? And like ask them to call them and give the office your number. And then they'll call you. That makes it easy. It takes something off of you.
Yeah.
Like just taking it like those steps at a time and then letting somebody help you is like you don't have to stay here.
No, yeah. And that's the thing that I think all of us would agree on. Like it feels so much better being on the other side. It is such a significant difference that it feels worth whatever you have to do to get to that because it just feels so much better.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. Also, when you said that about the table and being like, eating and food and diet being an impact, and then medication, but also like counseling. I mean, you two are going to couples counseling, correct?
Yeah.
So like having that part as well. Like when I first started medication, I that wasn't the first thing I tried. Like I actually tried counseling, and so I think some of those parts can be very helpful as well. But that doesn't fix everything sometimes. Sometimes there's like an actual chemical issue, an imbalance or whatever in your brain, and you need for me, when I first started taking it, it was like felt like a stigma. At least now it feels less in the world. But I mean, this was, my gosh, how long has it been? I mean, I guess around the amount of time that you, maybe a little less, but like at least 20 years or so. But my initial goal was like, I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life. And so we were like, that's not the goal. The goal is to like get you stabilized and then we'll go take it from there. And I mean, it ended up through trial and error being that no, you do have to take medication for the rest of your life. It's like having to take insulin for the rest of your life. Because I have a low serotonin level, it's not anything that I can do anything about. Besides what I'm doing. So, I mean, and then exercise and things like that are important. Yes, I'm doing those things. So but that's okay. But it's like coming to terms with that as well. Like to me now that sounds so like, why was I ever worried about that? But I know that some people feel that way. So,
and also like sometimes that's not the case. Like sometimes you don't need to
nope,
be
you don't.
on medication forever, and sometimes it is like
kind of resets you, and you're like, okay, I can wean off. I'm done, and
yeah, and it's also like I think there's different circumstances of like it being like more seasonal or like like because I just think it's just different for everyone. So that's why it's just so important to like find the right person.
It
and
is,
if you go into it and you're like, I really don't want to be on it for the rest of my life, then like you can acknowledge that fear or that feeling, but then just like see where it goes, because like at least you'll get to the point of being in the mindset to actually make that decision in a rational manner.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's one of the things that like my psychiatrist had said. She was like, the goal right now with the information that I have, it was our first meeting or session. She was like, the goal is to have you on medication for 6 months to a year, let your brain catch up to the serotonin levels or whatever chemical she had mentioned, to see if we can get it up to that like resting rate, and then we wean you off. And if you need more time, if you need less time, great, no problem. But she was very clear, and I definitely appreciated like her clarity and all of that, because I was like, oh, she's not just trying to prescribe me something and move on. It was like, oh, she actually cares about my longevity, and what works best for one person might not work for the other. And so I really appreciated that with those sessions.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think that was good.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Are we going to do some lightning round questions?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Do you want to help me pick?
Well, I can't see.
Okay. Oh. Well, you have your glasses.
All right.
Oh, I'm gonna do this one. Okay. What is your favorite junk food?
You're asking me?
Yeah, we're asking you. Who else are we asking?
Oh, I don't know each other. My favorite junk food is McDonald's.
Okay.
That's my guilty pleasure.
Huh.
I don't know why. I think it's the salt. I do know why. It's the salt.
Yeah.
That's funny. The salt.
If you could ask God one question, what would it be?
So,
That's a good one.
I feel like we asked each other this when we first started dating.
I don't remember what you said.
So,
do you remember what I said?
No.
Okay, because I'm like, I don't remember us asking that.
So the question that I always thought that I would want to ask him, and I feel like I almost started crying a little bit when you asked me the first time, or we were doing these.
Was this when we were like at camp?
I think so.
I feel like we were like in a work group cabin.
So the question that I would ask him was like, did I make you proud? And like things of that nature.
Oh, I do remember us talking about this. We also talked about this recently.
He says yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you make him proud. Invisibility or super strength?
Strength.
I agree with that.
Oh, interesting. I would, yeah. Wait, there's another one.
Okay.
Your first celebrity crush?
So this is a way back movie. Kangaroo Jack.
I don't even
It's
know
an
that.
older movie, but I remember it was the female lead in that movie or whatever. I remember we had this big TV. It was like one of those box TVs, and I would watch the movie and I would pause it.
Oh my goodness.
Just on her,
That
and
is
I was
hilarious.
like, oh yes.
In Kangaroo Jack.
Kangaroo Jack.
Was it the person that played Jessie?
I have no idea. I don't even remember the premise of the movie.
Was it her?
Sure. I just remember like pausing the TV and just like being enamored.
That is so funny.
That's
Who was your
hilarious.
first celebrity crush?
Mine?
Yeah,
Um,
Troy Bolton.
it might have been Zac Efron. It honestly might have been Zac Efron.
Yeah, that's funny. Troy Bolton.
Yeah. Yeah, it was probably Zac Efron. I thought he was like gonna be my boyfriend.
Rob Lowe for sure. All day, Rob Lowe. I mean, not now, Hugh Jackman, but
of course.
but Rob Lowe is still very good looking as he's gotten older.
He's
He's
aged
also
well.
he's very good looking.
Yeah.
But it was definitely Rob Lowe and St. Elmo's Fire.
Yeah, Zac Efron's not my celebrity crush anymore,
Yeah.
but I like him. I think he's a good person, but I also am like, he is like so like jacked.
Yeah. Well, I thought
He did that for a movie. Like,
yeah.
And so he had to like be on like different, I think he was like took medications and stuff
Yeah.
to like be like
He
that.
took steroids.
Yeah. And so like he just doesn't look like him
No.
anymore.
Yeah. Is he not like? Is that like not like?
I don't know. I haven't seen him.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure his jaw came back into normal shape.
Okay.
Because I don't
'Cause
know
I'm
where
like,
I
he's
heard this,
always
but I
been
heard
so handsome. I'm like, why would you like take?
Well, he probably didn't think about the effects of his face.
Well, so
Yeah.
I heard that he slipped and fell in his house and had to get jaw reconstruction surgery.
Oh.
So that's why it looks inflamed and puffed because
Okay.
they were doing
Poor
surgery
Zach.
on that.
Yeah, that stinks. All right, I think that's good.
Thanks for coming on here and telling us all your dirty secrets.
Those
Yeah.
are clean secrets.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So don't forget to mind your heart on Mondays.
Yeah. And you can subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe so that you get notifications whenever we post a new video. If you're listening, then leave us a review. Give us 5 stars because you love this podcast so much. And if you are interested in any like kind of free coaching where we could answer your questions and go over the scenario, then you can click the link below for that. But that's it. We will see you next Monday. Oh, and happy almost Halloween.
Oh yeah, happy almost Halloween. How did we forget about Halloween?
Yeah.
We just jumped right in. We didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So
Well,
happy Halloween.
bye.